Hi, I'm Kristin Duncan, real estate agent in Orlando, Florida with Keller Williams Advantage, and I am here with one of our wonderful team members, Heather. And Heather is not only an outstanding real estate agent, but she has spent over 21 years in the title industry. And I have a burning question for you because we have been getting this question from homeowners repeatedly in the last few months. So I'm going to ask you this question. I know you're going to have a great answer, but
yeah. Hit me with it.
So I've been going on listing appointments, talking to homeowners, and the question I keep getting is, can someone steal my title? They're seeing this somewhere. They're worried someone's going to steal their house. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where this is coming from because I haven't heard this, but clearly it's a question.
Yes.
And then what does this mean? Is it possible?
Yeah. Well, great question. They're not alone. This is a burning question in the real estate market. No matter where you go, people are talking about this. Fraud is definitely on the rise. We've been seeing lots of situations where people are having fraudulent deeds recorded against their property, which has really heightened the awareness of what could happen. A lot of times people ask questions like, well, how does this happen? How can somebody go down and record something against my property? So there are lots of questions around this. I mean, it's definitely something we're talking about, not only in real estate, but in the title end.
Yeah.
It's a huge concern. There's also products that have come out in the market. One most recently that people have probably heard about is called Title Lock, where they're advertising about, do you know that your property is at risk? Do you know that this is something that can happen? And we're, a company that's implemented some strategies to help homeowners make sure that this doesn't happen to them.
So who is most at risk for this? Like, could someone just walk in here and steal, the deed or the title to your house?
Yeah. No, nobody can just walk in and steal a deed. However, what somebody can do is they can go to a local county recording office and record a fraudulent document against the property. I kind of use this example, and it's kind of funny because people can relate to it. Mickey Mouse could go down to the courthouse and sign a deed that says that Mickey Mouse is buying this property, and those signatures can be forged. So, that it is something that can happen. It's important to recognize that the county recording offices in Florida, they aren't going to check IDs. If somebody walks in with a document and says, hey, record this, if it meets the standards for Florida recordation, they're going to go ahead and record it. And it can be a fraudulent document.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned earlier, like vacant houses, absentee owners,
yes,
are a little more at risk.
Yes. So you asked that question too. Who's at risk for this? And it really boils down to the properties that are most at risk are vacant properties because nobody's living there. So they assume that maybe somebody's not checking on the property or looking at records. Absentee owners are at risk as well. Somebody who lives in another state, owns a rental property in Florida because they figure by the time you find out about maybe something that's been done to the property, they have more time. Yeah. It's involved, somebody's not here locally. And then the third at-risk property is vacant land. This is big because nobody is living at the property. Oftentimes, if you own vacant land, you're not checking on the titles, you're just paying the taxes on an annual basis. And so it's a lot easier for fraudsters to go in and deed these properties to themselves to do harm.
Sense.
So
that makes sense.
Vacant land is top of the list for that reason.
And I liked what you said earlier that if you're living in your house, which is a non-absentee owner, you're an owner occupant, that they can try to list your house, but once they try to do a showing or something,
exactly,
the gig is up.
Well, and that brings up another point because the question also becomes, well, what is their end game, right? If I'm going to fraudulently record a deed and take your property, then what am I going to do with it at that point?
Yeah.
Option one, try and sell it, and that brings you to your point where the minute I try to sell it to somebody and they show up and they knock on the door and I say hello, like you said, the gig's up.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to sell the property.
Yeah.
But another fraud scheme is I deed the property to me, and then it allows me to take out a mortgage. So that is another area of risk. If you own a property that is free and clear, meaning you don't have a mortgage on it, or you have quite a bit of equity in the property. So you have a first, but you've got equity. A fraudster may look at that and say, well, I could deed it to myself, very quickly turn around and do a mortgage, and that would be my end game, right? Would be to get those funds. So it's important to know that it's not just to take the property, but to maybe potentially take a mortgage out or do something else like that.
Makes sense. So something I didn't ask you earlier, but you saying that prompted this. Is this something title insurance would cover? So let's say you live in New York, you have a property in Florida, it's a vacation rental or a long-term rental. Somebody does this to you, they're kind of successful with it. Is this something title insurance helps
Unfortunately, it's not.
Wow, okay.
So when you buy a piece of property and get a title insurance policy, an owner's policy, that policy covers the time frame from when you became the new owner, so when your deed gets recorded, and back. It does not cover moving forward. So it's going to cover if there was fraud, forgery, or issues in the chain of title prior to your ownership, but it's not going to cover if something is done afterwards. And so that kind of leads us to, okay, what happens if somebody records a deed against my property?
Yeah.
One, how can I find out about it? And two, what are my next steps? Because title insurance doesn't cover that.
So how do you find out about it? Because this sounds really scary, but yeah.
So we mentioned earlier there's a service called Title Lock, which is pretty doing a lot of advertising, a lot of efforts to get their name out into the real estate community. And it's a service that essentially you pay a monthly fee, and for that monthly fee, they will monitor the title to your property. Now, the key there is they'll monitor. They don't prevent it, because there's no way to really truly prevent a fraudster from doing something, because you don't know that the fraud is happening until it happens. Right. So Title Lock services, they'll charge you a fee, they'll monitor your title, and if they see something changes, something's recorded against your property, they'll notify you. That's kind of the key here, is learning about it as soon as it possibly, as soon as it happens, so that you can address it. And then from there, you would have to contact legal counsel to be able to assist you with how to make sure that the fraudster doesn't do any more damage, right? To get that deed or that whatever reversed, or handle what has happened. So services like Title Lock are great for notifying you. I will tell you that in the state of Florida, a lot of the counties have already implemented what they call fraud notices. So you can, if you're own a property in Orange County, Seminole County, Osceola County, these major counties, you can actually sign up for free fraud alerts, which is going to do the same thing. They're going to let you know.
That's great.
If something's been recorded, or if your property address has changed. Somebody has gone in and maybe they've changed your address to get bills and mail coming to them. So these free fraud alerts are a great way.
That's awesome.
Where you don't have to check it yourself every month. The county will let you know if something's changed too. So.
I did not know that existed. That's actually a really great
Yeah.
tip that we could probably even add to our closing checklists for new homeowners and things like that.
Sign up for fraud alerts. Yep.
That's awesome. I did not even know that part. Do you have Title Lock on your house? I'm just curious.
I do not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did sign up for free fraud alerts.
You just
with Orange County, just so that I would be aware of anything. The other thing too is, it doesn't hurt for you to do a check-in every quarter with your property appraiser, and just make sure nothing has changed, that your address is still the same, that the contact information hasn't changed. Also, on the property appraiser site, which if there's anybody out there that's has questions or needs help, they can contact us, because we can kind of show them where to look. You can actually see if there's been anything recorded against your property. So if you're not signed up for fraud alerts, or you don't have a service like this, and you just want to do it on your own, we can help you with what to look, what to look for.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Because those websites we navigate them all the time. Like some of this is
we
new
know
info
exactly
to
where
me
to look
too, but those websites are
Mm-hmm.
public and we can show you exactly where to look.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What can we as real estate agents do? Because I just had a friend call me, I'm not kidding, this is so top of mind to me, last night or the night before, over in Melbourne, experienced agent, great agent that I had referred someone to, and they listed this house. It was vacant, like you said. It was a like a vacation home or something like that, but it was vacant.
Right.
Somebody called them. It was a referral from an agent out of state that I knew, so it seemed like it tracked. They paid for pictures. They listed the house. They got an offer on the property.
Wow.
And didn't go under contract. They didn't sign anything, but they got the offer on the property. And the agent, because she's been doing this a while, said something seemed off. This seemed weird. But we deal with people that we don't meet
all the time.
The time. We sell houses for people we haven't met before.
Right.
So she detected it because she had experience, but so now my ears are kind of perked up to it. But what can we as agents do?
Well, I mean, there's lots of things that we can do to help the situation or to keep our eye out for these things. Number one, just as we're working with home sellers and home buyers, just the education process is important. Talking to them about what red flags might look like, letting our sellers that we list their properties know, hey, this is a red flag. This is things that you need to keep an eye out for. But then just in general, how we conduct ourselves in business, it's important that we are physically, making an effort to speak to these individuals, to get IDs, to communicate with them in more ways than just emailing over documents and digital signing. I would highly recommend that agents really take the time to FaceTime their clients.
Good one. Easy one.
FaceTime them, get to see them in person. A lot of fraudsters won't even want to do that. Let me tell you a quick story because we're talking about it. We had a situation that I was aware of where there was a property that was listed. It was vacant land in Apopka, but the property was over a $400,000 piece of property. So it's a significant piece of land. And the agent was contacted. They listed the property. This agent was very familiar with vacant land fraud, and so she did multiple things to try to get them to not only e-sign, but she also sent them something to physically sign so that they would send it back. The fraudsters in this case actually were monitoring the seller's mailbox. So the first document, document that they sent over for signature, the fraudsters actually intercepted and physically signed it and sent it back. It was the listing agreement. The property went on the market, they got an offer, and then instead of having the contract digitally signed, the agent proactively said, I'm going to send this to you for signature. But this time, she did not tell them that she was doing that. The prior one, she had told them, I'm sending you the listing agreement to sign, with a signature. It was intercepted. This contract was not intercepted. The real owner received the contract and made a call and said, this is not me trying to sell my piece of property. So you can see how far it got down the line. Even you had people that were cognizant of the issues doing their due diligence, that it just goes to show you that you can't be too careful. And I think that we just have to be understanding just in general that if I'm asking more questions, it's just because I want to try and protect the integrity of the transaction and just everybody's interest, and so education's big, and then just really keeping your eyes open and really recognizing some of those red flags to try and stop things from happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think how she ended it finally, the agent that I just met with, was she said, I'm going to need to see a picture of your ID. Yeah. And, that's not something we always ask for. Some things we sometimes ask for. Yeah. Sometimes the title side needs it right away.
Right.
I try to see that early at some point. And I mean, I understand some people are more private about that and can't, but guy my friend was dealing with just stopped talking to her when she asked to see the ID. He wouldn't respond to anything. So that was a big red flag.
Well, and in the case that I just talked to you about, we actually got a copy of the IDs, and The IDs were fraudulent. They were photos of the fraudsters, but then had the actual date of birth, driver's license of the seller. And so one of the other red flags that we saw was I was looking at a driver's license that said that the person was 60 plus years old, and the photo was somebody that was in their 30s. So getting a copy of those IDs is actually really helpful, because even if they give it to you, it could still have red flags that you might be able to pick up fraud.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Whew,
It's
all
crazy.
Right. It is. I love the free service from the county though. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
they do have that
awesome.
available. You just go, and it's called Fraud Alerts, and you get to sign up for it. And it's a great way to get notification if something changes with the county.
I will be doing that today.
Yes.
I'll be doing that today. Anything I forgot? Anything you think we need to add?
I don't think so. I think we kind of covered it. We get lots of these questions.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reality is here, Kristin, is the home is the biggest asset that people have in their their life. It's important. It's people's retirement. It's something that they plan to give to their children. I mean, it is a huge, important thing that they have, and you've got to find ways to protect it. And this is, having the conversation about this and becoming aware that this fraud is happening is step one.
Yeah.
So,
well, this was great. Very informative. I'm going to be sharing this with anyone that asks me that question, or possibly just any new homeowner, period. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If you have any questions about this, let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we'd love to hear from you if you have experience with this, or if there are just other questions you have about real estate. We're happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you.